Hi, this is Gil Benbrook from Phoenix Stages and TalkinBroadway.com, and I am here with the cast of Arizona Broadway Theater's Altar Boyz, which runs here in Peoria through September 16th. So let's just jump right in. For someone who isn't familiar with the show, what would you tell them Altar Boyz is about?
So Altar Boyz is a concert that happens, that you said, this spoof Christian boy band. It's the final night of our Raise the Praise tour. And we're here playing the Arizona Broadway Theatre. And within that night, you get to hear our music and see our dancing, which is very, in sync, Backstreet Boys, 90s boy band. And then some stuff kind of goes haywire as the night progresses.
But I'm curious to know, were any of you actually Altar Boyz growing up? Or were any of you actually in like a local boy band?
I was an altar boy for probably 4 or 5 years growing up. So a lot of the jokes that maybe not everyone will get, I definitely understand sort of on a deeper level, because it's a really well written play and it's really funny. So yeah, I get it.
What about the rest of you? Anybody in a boy band? Anybody want to be secretly Justin Timberlake growing up or something?
Yeah, I sang with a band actually growing up in high school, and then even through college, a lot of us did like cruise ships and theme parks, so we grew up singing a lot of like pop rock music in this style.
And all these great harmonies and vocals that you get in the show too, which are definitely right out of the boy band.
Yeah, absolutely.
All 5 characters in the show are very identifiable, and they play off the typical characters within boy bands. Right. So Joseph, you play Matthew, the heartthrob leader of the group. Tyler, you're Luke, the group's bad boy. Kirk, you play Juan, the ethnic member of the group. And Joe, you play Mark, which, without giving too much away, I'll just say you have a fondness and deep connection to Matthew.
I have a deep connection to Matthew. I'd say I was maybe the sweet one.
Yeah. That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
So Joe, what have some of the challenges been in playing, these identifiable characters? Did you use any boy bands as role models? Maybe Lance Bass in your case?
Totally. Yeah. I know I grew up with a sister who loved NSYNC, so I grew up with that kind of music in my life. So definitely listened to a lot of that. I think the main challenge is, I know for personally, was matching up the dancing with the singing and having the stamina to do both of those at the same time. 8 shows a week. So I remember right off the bat, we started choreographing the opening number of the show, Altar Boyz, which is one of the toughest dance numbers of the show. And I know we all went home that night and we're like, oh my gosh, what have we gotten ourselves into? Now we're totally comfortable with it and we live for these big dance moments. But that was one of the toughest parts about the process. And I would also say, in creating our archetypes of our characters, to find a happy balance between being over the top enough and playing into the style of this satirical musical, but also being able to bring some truth to it and not becoming a caricature, which can easily happen really quickly. So I think there's always a fine line between putting yourself out there and being bold and making big choices, but also not going too far over the top where people can't relate. So that was, I think, the toughest challenge with my character is, finding the comedy in it, but also not becoming a cartoon character or something.
Well, and I think Tyler, as I would say the craziest character. You're the bad boy, the guy who spent some time.
He's not the brightest bulb in the box.
So how difficult is it to really not go too broad and not make him sort of be just way too out there?
I'd say there's a certain level of difficulty, but I also do think that there are certain elements that people will relate to in Luke, which I think is his big heart and his passion for music and the way he loves his friends. And also he just got out of the rejuvenation center, he's working through all of this stuff, and I think hopefully the audience will be proud of him.
I think they're supportive of him.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Struggling through exhaustion.
How do you prepare for such a show that you need so much stamina to get through it?
Well, we did have very rigorous
rehearsal days where we would be dancing nonstop. Our bodies were definitely broken, but what you usually have to do to build up stamina is to just kind of keep doing it. You have to keep singing and dancing and going through it and going full out every time, because that's what's going to build up your stamina. And it's also just like learning when to breathe on stage and kind of fighting through the harder parts, knowing that there's going to be time to rest later. But yeah, stamina comes with practice, so a lot of training.
And I have to imagine it's, you guys are all on stage almost for the entire show. It's probably one of the most intense shows in that aspect too.
It's very rare, I think, that you get a show where you're on stage 100% of the time and you are dancing 100% of the time and singing these very hard harmonies and melodies, and they're all very rangy, and it's definitely one of the most difficult shows I've ever done.
There's no backing tracks.
It's all live.
And a great band too.
Awesome band.
Mark Foreman, you can't beat him.
That's all.
Would any of you consider yourself to either have been religious in the past or religious now? And if so, how do you identify with the religious aspects of the show?
I identify as Christian, and I would say that I think the show does a really great job of pushing the message of love, and especially community, because with these 5 boys, they're they're very close-knit. They've just finished this tour. They're all very different, yet there's a sense of love and unity that brings them together, which is, I think, why the show is so successful. We do poke fun at a lot of the ways that Christian services are run, specifically Catholic services are run. But I think overall there's this beautiful sense of heart and love and acceptance that is the way like God would have wanted it. So,
Joseph, what have you learned through this process about yourself?
This one was definitely a challenge. It was a quick rehearsal period, and we, the stamina that we mentioned earlier was crazy. I've not had to dance like this in a show in some time, so that was a lot of fun. And also I, just had a few days to kind of learn this role, so that was a great challenge. And these guys have been so good helping that happen. It's definitely been a great community that we've formed here. So to be able to do that was really exciting and kind of scary, but definitely like you said, a big growing experience.
Yeah, and you had your boys.
The boys have my back,
man. They're all so close.
Yeah.
So, what do you want audiences to take away from seeing Altar Boyz at ABT?
I think the main thing we would want them to take away is just a really fun night. The show does, by the end of it, have a lot of heart to it, but at the basis of it all, I would say the show is about camaraderie and having fun and laughing, and I think people will be surprised by just how much humor is in this show. And also it really has something for everybody, because it's not your typical musical in 2 acts with a bad guy and the whole arc and a love story. It's not like that. This is it could be for music lovers, it could be for comedy lovers, it could be for people who do love a standard Broadway musical. So I think there's something in it for everybody, and if you're just looking to have a fun, silly time and see some amazing singing and dancing, it's something really special happening here in the Phoenix area, and I hope people get to catch it.
Thanks, guys. Altar Boyz here at ABT through September 16th.
We are the Altar Boyz.